The following program was underwritten by the Resource Enhancement and Protection Conservation Education Program.
Okay, this is the seed calculator that I developed a few years back, and what I'll do first is just go through the different columns and kind of orientate you towards this calculator, and so we can get a familiarize ourselves with just the layout of the calculator itself. And then once we get done with that, then we can go through and actually start selecting species and selecting the number of seeds per square foot of those species that we want to include in the seed mix. So starting out, the calculator is organized by grasses and sedges. Grasses and sedges are in this first column. Then you have legume forbs in the next layer, and then the last layer are non-legume forbs. And you can see the largest category really are these non-legume forbs. These species are nearly statewide or statewide. Most of them are nearly statewide or statewide in Iowa. And for other states, you'll have to check that. That could change. Maybe something that's statewide here might be a little rarer or less common in adjacent states. So this really is really a seed calculator that was developed for the state of Iowa, but you certainly could use it for regions that surround Iowa. Okay, so the first column is the common name of the species. I've highlighted there. The second column is the scientific name for each of the species. The third column is the moisture class, and we talked about this earlier about dry mesic, wet mesic, and this basically, if there's a D by it, it means that it's really adapted to drier environments. If it's a WM, MD, it's adapted to wet mesic, and dry environments, and so on. MD means that it'll work for mesic and dry environments. And so each species has a moisture class that corresponds to what it prefers. The habitat, P means tall grass, open prairie, full sunlight prairie. S means savanna in P. So SP means that it could work in a somewhat shaded environment or in a full sunlight. And then WSP means woodland, savanna, and prairie. And so Plains oval sedge, for example, could be grown in a woodland, in a savanna, and in a prairie. So that's got a fairly broad habitat preference. Iowa distribution, again, I went by Christensen's distribution book and by Thomas Rosberg's distribution list, and so whatever they recommended, if it was statewide or nearly statewide, or in some cases like Northeast, I have some species in here that are just in certain sectors in Iowa, and I did that because I do customize some seed mixes for like Northeast Iowa, because we do a lot of seeding in this part of the state. So I do have some species on here that are not statewide, but they're more specific to this area in Iowa, in the northeast part of the state. Phenology, we have whether in the grasses and sedges, whether they're cool season or warm season. Basically, cool season grasses and sedges will emerge soon after the frost is out of the ground in the spring, and they do the majority of their growing season over the spring and will actually go to seed early summer. Warm season grasses will emerge late spring and do the majority of their growth during the hot part of the mid to late summer, and then late summer they'll go to seed, and the seed will be ready in the fall. So there's really two different kinds of phenologies of grasses for sure. Forbs, the wildflowers, they're not categorized as cool season or warm season. Basically, that column is by their flowering period. And so you'll see it'll for the grasses and sedges it'll say cool season, warm season, and then you'll have the flowering for the legume forbs and the non-legume forbs. The next category is Iowa conservatism, coefficient of conservatism. And the definition I'll read from you is from Packard-Mutel. The coefficient of conservatism represents the degree to which an experienced field botanist has the confidence that a given species is representative of a high-quality remnant habitat. And so basically, the higher the number is here, the more likely that species, if it's found, will represent a high-quality remnant. And so the goal of developing a seed mix is you would like to get as high a number of coefficient of each of the species that you can in the seed mix. And that will create a plant community that overall has a higher quality to it. The next column is the actual seed weight of each species, and this is just the number of seeds per ounce. And so you can see there's a huge range. Western wheatgrass has 7,000 seeds per ounce, and blue joint grass has almost 250,000 seeds per ounce. So there's a large range of seed sizes. You might ask, how did I come up with these numbers, these seed size numbers and weight? This is basically out of the Prairie Moon catalog, and they actually, I believe, weigh their seeds nearly every year. And so this is something that I reference, Prairie Moon's catalog, and I'll adjust every year as they determine different seed weights year by year. Okay, this is the business end of this seed calculator. This is the number of seeds per square foot. And when you open up this seed calculator, there's only two categories that you can manipulate. One is the seeds per square foot, and the other is this area where you'll actually enter in the area of your planting site. So these are the only two categories you can enter data in. The sheet is protected so you don't accidentally change one of these other criteria. So just keep in mind when you do use this sheet, you can only change or enter data in this cell and in these individual cells here. Those are the only two places you can change the numbers. Okay, as we go down the sheet, we have, this is the rate per ounce. This is what the calculator will automatically calculate given the area that you put in. So if you put in 1 acre and you put in 1 seed, it will calculate how many seeds by weight you'll have for that acre. So if you did 1 seed per acre, that'd be 43,560 seeds. And it'll give you the actual ounces that 43,560 seeds weigh for that given species. And then the final column is a cost. And this is an average cost. I take the cost of a couple of different vendors, the retail cost, and it's automatically entered in. And every year I'll double check and change. So next year in 2013 I'll go and change those retail prices. Sometimes they stay the same, sometimes they change. And so this is automatically calculated based on the average retail value per ounce of every given species that we have on the seed calculator. So it'll automatically calculate your seed cost for you for your planting site. Okay. All right, so we've kind of looked what the seed calculator is about, and there are other notations down here. WM is wet mesic, M is mesic, D is dry. But then I have numbers here. There's 1 and 2. So if there's not a number next to each of the species, it is a perennial plant. In other words, once you plant it, given the conditions are right, it'll come back year after year. However, there are plants native prairie plants that are annuals, which means that they germinate, grow, flower, set seed, And they only live, the adult plant only lives that year, so it's an annual plant. And it's very important when we're forming a seed mix to not only have perennials in the seed mix, but we want annuals and biennial plants, which means that they grow the first year, but they flower the second year, and then the plant dies in the second year. We want those annuals and biennials because those are the species that, if there's a disturbance, like a prairie or a gopher that digs up part of your prairie, there'll be annual seeds, native seeds, in the seed bank that can germinate and revegetate those disturbed soiled areas. And so it's very important to include annuals, biennials, and perennials in your seed mix. So let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just enter in, or let's say our planting site is 5 acres. Okay, so you just hit return, you hit the number 5 and hit return. So now the seed calculator knows that you're forming a seed mix for 5 acres. So let's say for western wheatgrass, if I want, well, let's go to big blue stem here. That's a common grass. Let's say I want to put in 1 seed per square foot. Hit return. Did you see how the numbers change? So for 1 seed per square foot, for 5 acres, I need 21.8 ounces of pure live seed, ounces PLS, pure live seed, and it's going to cost me $43.56 for just 1 grass species for 5 acres.